The first thing that we need to do then is to create our MongoDB database in the cloud. To do this, we're going to use MongoDB Atlas. We can get a free hosted MongoDB database with them, which allows us up to 512 megabytes of data, plenty for our requirements. So enter your email address in the field and then click on Get Started Free. When we do that, we're going to have to supply some data about ourselves, our first name, our last name, and then a password which has to meet certain requirements. So I'm just going to type in all of my data here, agree to the terms, and then get started for free. Now that that's completed, we can create our first MongoDB database. Initially, we need to create a cluster. And a cluster is, as its name suggests, a cluster of servers that our database will run on. We want to use Amazon Web Services, and then we want to choose our region. Now normally you would choose the region closest to you. So for me, I would logically choose Ireland since I'm based in Dublin. However, not all regions support the free tier. So I'm going to leave it set at the US because it says free tier available, and we don't want to be paying for our database for this. Next, we need to choose our cluster tier. I'm going to choose M0, the free forever tier. And then finally, we can scroll right down to the bottom of the page, click on the little arrow, and give our cluster a name, which I'm going to call My First Cluster, and then click on the Create Cluster button. Now this is going to take a few minutes to provision our database, so while that's happening, we can click on the Security tab here, next to Overview, and create a username to access our database. So I'm going to give the username of root, and I'm going to give the password of R00T, capital U, SER. Now remember to keep your username and password secure, probably a lot more secure than I've done here. They should never appear in any GitHub repository, otherwise you're giving away full access to your database. Now that we've added our user, we can click on IP whitelist to whitelist our IP address and make sure that it has access to our database. We're going to select Allow Access from Anywhere, partly because we're going to be accessing this from Cloud9 and your IP address may be different, and then later on Heroku, but ideally you should put the IP addresses of your hosts here. This is a further security feature which can help to prevent unauthorized access to your data. Now we can go back to our Clusters tab and just wait for our cluster to be provisioned. When it's provisioned, everything will change and the buttons will become enabled. Okay, now that's done, click on the Collections button and we can create our first database and collection. So I'm going to call the database MyTestDB, and I'm going to call the collection MyFirstMDB, and then click on Create. Now this may take a few minutes to come up for you, but as you can see, when it does, we have no documents in the database. So I'm going to click on Insert Document. The documents are stored in a format that's JSON-like, so it will have curly brackets and key value pairs. So we're going to create a database of people. So I've created a field called First and given that the value of Kate, a field called Last with the value of Bush, a field for date of birth, which is the 30th of July 1958, the gender female, hair color brown, and occupation is singer. And then finally her nationality is English. Okay, when that's done we can click on Insert. As you can see, MongoDB provides an ID for us, which is very handy. And there we've done it. We've created our first document inside MongoDB. Now normally we'll be importing data or adding it programmatically rather than doing it through this front end. In our next video, we're going to look at how to interact with our new MongoDB database using the command line.